There we go. Good evening, good morning, whichever the case may be. I felt the need to vent about Tim Walz, but it appears Megyn Kelly has preemptively provided me with all the information I feel I need. Um, as I stated in the description for this video, as the son of a Purple Heart recipient, the fact that Walz deserted his people prior to being deployed to Iraq makes me completely sick to my stomach. Makes me want to literally vomit, because this man not only is a coward, but has stolen valor from those who have actually earned it, like my father. I'm going to let Megyn speak with this gentleman. This gentleman actually was the man who replaced Tim Walz after Walz decided to, quote unquote, retire from the National Guard, and as he will point out, slithered down the steps of the armory and out the door. I'm going to let him tell the story. I will stop the video at certain points just to interject my opinion on some things. And I know that generally we don't do politics on this channel, but I really felt the need to vent this, and I do not have StreamYard set up on the True Celtic Mud as yet. So I'm going to include this particular video with my commentary in the current events section on the playlist of the current events. So sit back, relax, and be prepared to be amazed at what the Democrats are considering a viable candidate for vice president. It's completely mind-blowing.
You served with Mr. Walz in the same unit, is that right?
I was in the same battalion in 2004, and then I got promoted into the division artillery, actually, the Vardy. And then he stayed in one of the 125 and was selected to be the acting command sergeant major at that time. So
let me interject here, because they're going to discuss this as well. Walz was the provisional command sergeant major. And what they mean by the provisional was he didn't go to college and get his officer's rank. So they made him a non-commissioned officer on the grounds that he finished sergeant major training. But since they needed a sergeant major for that particular unit, as he will explain later, they went ahead and promoted Walz to command sergeant major. A lot of good it did. But I'm going to let him speak on this.
We were together in the Europe deployment that we did in 03 and 04.
Okay, right. Both of you were over.
Ooh, he went to Europe 03 and 04. Ooh, but Europe, he went specifically to Italy, and Italy is not a combat zone, at least not during the Iraq War. It wasn't. Anyway, yeah, way to go, Walz. You spent time in Italy.
Overseas in Europe, not in Iraq or Afghanistan as of that time. But then in early 2005, my understanding is your unit got notified that it was going to be deployed to Iraq.
Correct. It got a warning order, which basically gets everybody prepared that, hey, this is coming, get your will in order, let your family know, pack your bags, all that type of stuff, we're going to be training, just kind of prepares you to get in the mindset that, yep, you're going to be going to war.
On your mark, go!
All right, folks.
Or wherever you're going in your deployment.
And he, at that time, was the command sergeant major of the unit?
He was acting is kind of what we call it. You're conditionally promoted at that point, where, when you receive the rank, if you don't have the Sergeant Major's Academy completed, then you are conditionally promoted on the condition that you pass those requirements, which number one is attending and passing the United States Army Sergeant Major's Academy, which is in Fort Bliss, Texas. And then the other one is staying in the military for 2 years after they've invested all that money in your education.
So basically what this gentleman is telling you is he didn't even fully earn the command sergeant major slot. He bailed on his obligation for that 2 years. Wow. What's he going to do when things get rough with the country? Is he going to bail then too?
And for the record, he did neither of those things. But
no,
let's start with the Iraq deployment, because the unit, including Mr. Walz, gets the notification that you're about to be deployed to Iraq in 2005, when it was rough over there. And he had, we know from the reporting by Alpha News, he had in 2001 signed a commitment to stay for another 6 years. He reenlisted for another 6 years, which would have put his departure date at 2007 from the National.
Yep. Let's see. The last time I learned, I'm a little slow, but he signed in 2001 for a 6-year extension. So, yeah, 2001 to 2002, 2002 to 2003, 2003 to 2004, 2004 to 2005, 2005 to 2006, 2006 to 2007. That is 6 years. I just counted it on my fingers, ladies and gentlemen. I may not be a smart man, but I can count. So he didn't even finish his obligation.
National Guard.
Correct.
Instead, he left. He retired before your unit got deployed. And
Correct.
When this controversy came up, when he first ran for office, he tried to say, I only reenlisted for 4 years, which would have taken him to 2005 and still would have not excused him leaving before the deployment. It still was too early. But the truth is, it was 6 years. He should have been there through 2007, according to Alpha News, which got its hands on the National Guard documents, in particular,
Correct.
his report of separation and military service form, showing he reenlisted for 6 years with his service obligation being complete on September 18th, 2007. I want to tell the audience, when Alpha News reached out to Walz to clarify the inconsistencies between his story and the official documents they had obtained, the campaign, quote, would not answer questions on the duration of Walz's re-enlistment.
Thank you, Megan Kelly, for having the official documentation to back up the allegations. My girl brought the receipts.
So let's go back to you. It's 2005. Instead of going with the unit and being the command sergeant major in Iraq, he quits. And what happens next to you and the other guys you're serving with?
Well, in the fall of 2004, just stepping back a little bit, when the selection process was done, I was selected to
Yes, we are.
position in DIVARTY, which is Division Artillery, which is, he was selected into one of the 125 Field Artillery Battalion, which I was a member. We were both first sergeants together. So, I went one way. I went to DIVARTY to Division. He stayed in the 125, and then when the warning order came out, the 125 ended up being
essentially
part of the 1st Brigade. So they were the ones that were notified that they were going to war. And I was at Division, and Division wasn't notified. So I was kind of like, well, I it must not be my time. You know, I'm in division. I'm here. I'm just going to keep working, and you know, division gets activated, I'll go. But that's what happened with that at that point. So I wasn't in the 125 at that point, one of the 125 field artillery, and he was. So when 05 rolled around, he got notified. I mean, they all knew what was going to happen. I mean, it was right on the documents. It was going to be Iraq. The warning order was out there from March until May, and then May rolled around, and the rumor came out across the state that he had quit, turned his stuff in, and slithered down the steps out of the armory and had quit and
My
retired.
father was
And everybody was in shock because senior NCOs
and was an
don't do that. I
artilleryman.
mean, that
He was
you
a red
basically
leg.
train for years and
man
years.
was
You're with
raised
your soldiers. Your soldiers
all
are
artillerymen
literally like your
and
kids
all soldiers,
almost. I
in
mean,
my opinion.
you've watched them grow up. You've helped them shoot guns and learn how to do the radio stuff and, you know, fix wounds if you can and different things. And then all of a sudden when it's time to go do your thing with that, you quit. I mean, that just absolutely it was just disgusting. People were like, well, what is he, a coward, whatever. Nobody knew what the answer was. And I pretty much knew, well, I'll probably get the call because I'm a 13 Bravo artillery guy. And, you know, then I got the call about not quite a month later. I mean, it was a few weeks, and then my colonel called, and you know, it was just weird. I was out in one of my farm fields, and I was talking to him, and he's like, "Well, you know, we're asking you to go," and then there was a horseshoe laid on the ground, and I always called it my lucky horseshoe. But other people said, "How can you say that's lucky? You went to war." And it was like, "Oh, I got to serve my country in a greater capacity, and I got to help protect my soldiers and do whatever I could to make the deployment
Thank you for your service.
as good as it could be," because it was, you know, like you said, it was a tough time in country then.
So we easily beat crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of our country. And he's the worst because of his policy and other reasons, but because of policy.
Sorry about that.
So you went, and how long was the unit deployed for?
We were gone all the way until July of 2007. So when we started it was 22 months total. We had a 6-month train up at Camp Shelby, Mississippi, and then we ended up, we're supposed to be a year in country. We're supposed to be an 18 months deployment, but then all the sectarian violence started in 06, late 06, and in January of 7, and we got extended to help out. We were involved in the surge basically, but we were already in country, so they just kept us in place and moved more soldiers in to try to quell the violence.
Can you just give us a feel for how rough that time was? I remember covering it as a reporter. 2006 was when the beheadings started. It just started to get very, very dark, even darker than you'd expect for war.
Timmy
You
got
were
scared
there.
to pee
So were the
himself
men
and
who
ran
had
away.
served under him. He was supposed to be there, according to these documents. What was it
Right.
like for you guys?
Well, when I got home, I kind of looked at some of our ground squirrels running around, and you know, they're always on the alert. They're looking for a hawk to fly down or a badger to dig them out of the hole. I mean, you're always think you're gonna.
It's all good, man.
All what it
All
boils
good.
down.
I am the Celtic.
We didn't know really that we were going to get out of there.
I run
We got on the last Chinook to fly out.
Cover a lot of
And
American history.
even
This is
then,
current
there
event.
was stuff flying in the air at us, chasing us out of country almost. I mean, it was really a trying time, and you know, it was. They are a thinking enemy. I mean, Iran was behind all of the crap that was shot at us. I mean, it was from the explosive point.
I am going to pause this for just a second and again say thank you for stopping in. I'm going to continue the video here in just a second, but again, I want to thank you and ask you to please hit the like button. And if you like this kind of content or you enjoy American history, we do a show every Wednesday at 8 Eastern where we discuss a specific factor of the U.S. history. But I'm going to get back to this. I just felt that this needed to be put out there apparently this gentleman here has been trying for years since Walz went to become governor and then later on to join the House. But very few would listen.
Form projectiles, to the mortars, to the Katusha rockets, to the training of the people that went across the border and then came back and then used all those tactics, techniques, and procedures against us. I mean, they literally were the people behind the scenes in our area. We were Shiite areas, so they were the the people killing us were the proxies of Iran. And when Donald Trump got rid of Salami or whatever his name was, he was the architect of all
the way he said
people in my area that died. I mean, he has 3,000 people on his head, I think. But it was a rough time. I mean, we did what we could and kept everybody safe as much as we could. We drug out some old 120 millimeter mortars and shot them back at them, and kind of got them. They didn't like getting shot at. I'll tell you that. That kind of put them on their toes. But
I'll bet. I know that you wrote in October of 18 on Facebook, you've been trying to raise this issue. I should point out, you've been trying to raise this issue since he first ran for Congress. Once he ran for governor, you tried to tell the media in Minnesota, you need to know the truth about him, that he left us. He quit. And almost nobody picked up the story. The papers that you sent your letter to wound up endorsing him, like the Star Tribune, and ignoring you. And so this is the first time you're really getting, I think, a national audience to say what you say is the truth about Governor Walz, and Alpha News confirms. You posted something in 2018 when he ran for governor, along with two others, with another retired Army Command Sergeant Major who is named Paul Herr. And before posting the letter, you wrote a message on why you wanted to bring this story out. It reads in part as follows. On 9/11, as I lowered the flags to half-staff at the Brewster Veterans Memorial, I gazed at the bronze likeness of Sergeant Kyle Miller, who was killed in action in Iraq on June 29th, 2006, at age 19 while serving in the 125th Field Artillery Battalion. I wondered what that patriot thought that day in 2001, a teenager in school, and I wondered what all the other patriots who had joined the service after 9/11 thought on that day. When they joined, we were at war, which we still are, and getting the call to go is probably going to happen. What if everybody said, sorry, I've got better things to do? We are the land of the free because of the brave.
Amen.
We are not the land of the free because of those who ran. The citizens of the state of Minnesota deserve to hear this side of the story, not just a slithery politician's version of what he wants people to hear. Do you feel, Tom, that he cut and ran, that he abandoned the unit?
Here it comes.
Absolutely. I look back on what took place then. I mean, it wasn't like, oh, I just happened to get out and then a week later the paper came out and the warning order came out and I just happened to time it just right and I knew that was going to happen. I mean, the warning order was already out. Everybody knew they were going, and
I got it. There we go.
I don't know if
the commercials.
He's never responded why to anybody really, except that, well, I had to quit to run for Congress, which is a lie, like a lot of the other ones, a lot of the lies he tells. I mean, but he basically said that, but I don't know if he was a coward when he originally did it, or if he felt, well, I'm in over my head. If I go there, I'm going to get people killed, or I'm, maybe deep down he felt I'm incompetent. I mean, you can't talk your way out of somebody shooting at you. In a scenario like that, and he's very good at talking and doing that. I mean, I got to give him credit there. He loves hearing himself talk, but I don't know, and on the end of it, I think the reason he quit was political, because it was, back then, one side was it was George Bush's war, and it was an unjust war, and why were we there, and all this stuff, when it was like, and I think I think the bottom line is maybe it's all of the above. Maybe, maybe there is some cowardice in there too. But that was the thing. It was like we were there, and I was at a huge bunker complex where there was bunkers that were blown all to pieces, but then there were some that were locked yet. And told the EOD, explosive ordnance disposal guy, I said, well, maybe there's weapons of mass destruction in there. And he said, well, I ain't open up. He said, I got enough work to do cleaning all these rounds that are laying all over the desert out. And it was like, well, where's the media when it comes to this? I mean, they didn't show any of that, but I mean, there was all kinds of possibilities that there was more there than anybody said, but everything got skewed then, and it was like an unjust thing, and I think that's the bottom line. But yeah, he literally, when I looked into, the Star Tribune reporter I talked to way back when, he actually said, well, isn't that treason? And I said, well, treason is probably one level over and above what he did. I said, because that's selling the country out to another nation. If you're a double agent spy.
He wasn't treasonous. He was just cowardly, in my opinion. And that's just as bad. Being a coward, he's got to live with that. Seems like he's living with it, but we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. But yeah, I don't see Walz as treasonous, other than to say the stolen valor, the stolen rank of command sergeant major for not finishing out his commitment. That's criminal. That right there is criminal. I at least in my opinion. If you're going to take the provisional or conditional command sergeant major slot with the understanding that you have to finish the program and give them an additional 2 years, then that's what you need to do. This man cut and ran because he got scared and couldn't take the heat, so he ran out of the kitchen, in my opinion.
Spy or something. I mean, that's one thing. He is a traitor, because a traitor is basically a person who betrays a country, and that is what he did. And then I got thinking about it, about like that Bergdahl guy that just walked away from his unit in Afghanistan, and it was like, that literally is what Tim Walz did. He is a deserter too. It's a different version of it, but a soldier who leaves or runs away from service or duty with the intention of never returning. That is exactly what he did.
The ability to provide for your family has changed quite a bit in the last couple of years, as you know. When you go shopping, you're getting less, but spending the same. You might have to decide what to buy and what to do without. But I want to tell you about American financing. If you are a homeowner, they will take the equity you've built up.
I was not anticipating her little commercial. Anyway, I think that's kind of the end of the interview that she had with him anyway. Yeah, that was the end of the interview. But I just felt it needed to be put out there so that people actually know what they're voting for. Not that the Dems are going to care, because, all they see is the D behind the name and the color blue, and they check the box. But at least I'm doing my part to try to inform people on what kind of a person Kamala Harris has as her running mate. I would very much like, if you would, please feel free to share this. Please feel free to share this this stream. The link to Megyn Kelly's thing is in the description. It's down in the description. I took it straight off of her page. When I clicked on the share for that video, I hit copy and put it right down there in the bottom. So you'll find the link for that interview on the bottom. But yeah, if you would share our stream, it would tremendously help the channel. We are a small but growing channel. But you know that this isn't about us. This is about wanting to inform the American people about what kind of a person Tim Walz is and what they're voting for. If they choose to ignore it, that's on them. Many of them will, because they are just blind sheep. In my opinion, my humble opinion is they are just blind sheep who are going to ignore facts as they are put in front of them. Well, folks, that's really all I have to say on this subject. I appreciate you, Sign of Zorro, for popping in and sharing the stream. Please hit the like button. That would also help. And again, if you want to lead them to the channel, it will be in the playlist titled Current Events, which is where I'm going to put this particular live stream. I'm going to put it in Current Events. Or you can just hit the copy, the share, and you share it that way if you want. That's fine too. I know that you were saying you wanted more people to see it, so. But I want you to have a good day. I am going to go ahead and turn in. It is 4:45 in the morning my time. But anyway, that's all I have for tonight. And we will see you all again very, very soon. Take care.